Right. So it looks like we are now recording. Okay. So for tonight, we're going to go over this is predominantly for the fall room selection. So fall and spring. So fall 2025, which is nuts that it's already fall 2025. We're talking about that. And spring 2026. We are predominantly talking about that academic year. However, the walkthrough is and how to do room selection is going to be the same process for summer. So if you're for some reason not going to live on campus for the academic year for next year, but you need summer housing, this is still going to be applicable to you. Because we definitely do this. It's pretty much the same process, just a little bit shorter for the summer because there's less students, but it's very similar. So you're good information no matter what term you're going to be living on campus and going through the selection process. Um, I'm going to go through the steps start to finish. So it's going to be, um, you know, completing the agreement, looking for roommates, and doing the actual selection. So we'll do that. Like I said, I have an hour to go through quite a bit. I'll try to go through it pretty thorough, but kind of quickly because I imagine some of you might have some questions with unique scenarios and things like that. So I'll definitely try to answer the best I can. If I can't get to you tonight, like I said, I did include my email in the chat. So feel free to email me anytime. Email tends to be the best way to get in contact with me because I'm always in and out of meetings. So getting me on the phone sometimes is hard. So the first thing I do want to talk about is the residency requirement. So we do require all first and second year students to live on campus. So if you are a rising sophomore, so that means you're a freshman right now, you're going to be a rising sophomore for the fall. You are required to live on campus. If you're here for the summer term, so in order to be eligible for summer housing, you need to either be enrolled full time in classes, which is 12 credit hours for an undergrad, or 9 for a grad, or you need to be in a co-op and need housing. So those are your requirements there. Graduate students will go through a completely separate process for the fall term, for the fall 25, spring 26. So they're in their own separate process. What we do with them is we have a building set aside 68 Louis Pring because graduate students are not required to live on campus, and so there's usually a lot less students in that pool. So they have a different process. So if you are a grad student, you can definitely stick around. Still good information. But if you don't want to stick around, that's completely fine. You can definitely email me and I can get connected with you and we can chat about that process. So like I mentioned, I did include the important dates in the chat. Feel free to write those down, copy and paste them, whatever you need to do. Like I said, we're going to have A-frames out there. We're going to have flyers. I'm going to be sending out emails. So you'll have this information more than one location. I think we're also going to probably do Instagram. Like we're just trying to get the message out there so that way you're not missing the important deadlines. In that, I also included summer because I know that's also a pretty popular topic right now because people are trying to prepare for both the summer and for the fall. So I did include those dates for you as well. These are subject to change, like it is still winter time. So like let's say we get a crazy blizzard or something nuts and I can't, do the room selection process, or if the system goes down, like things do happen. But we definitely try to stick with this timeline the best that we can. If something changes and a date changes, I will for sure send that information out. So please make sure you're checking your WIT email on the reg during this time frame. I mean, you should at any point, but definitely right now because we're going to be sending out a lot of information. So yeah, so the process itself, it's really broken down into two main parts. So your first part is going to be your housing agreement. So what that is, um, it's like a contract. So it's legally binding. So please make sure you read through it thoroughly, because there's a lot of good information in the agreement. There's going to be, some legality things in there that you're going to be responsible for. So just make sure you're reading through that. And then with the housing agreement is the $500 down payment. And every student is required to pay that. And what that does, it secures and says, hey, I'm going to need housing for this period. And then what we'll do is in the fall, student accounts will take that payment and they'll apply it to your bill. So you'll end up getting it back, but it'll go towards your account. And then another piece to that is your roommate matching. So in the system, you'll be able to go in and you can actually search for others that are going to be living on campus and you can pair up in the system. And if you want to live with others, or if you have particular people you want to live with, you definitely want to make sure you go through that process and you go in there and you pair up. And I'll show you what that looks like here in a little bit. So, and then the second phase, which is another big piece, is the actual room selection itself. So everything is done through your My Housing portal. And yeah, so I'm going to share my screen. Let me see. Do. All right. Can everyone see this portal right here? What it looks like? Let me see. I want to make sure because it's weird on my end here. Yeah, can everyone see this? You should see Sam McTester. Give me a thumbs up in the chat if you can, or a yes. But you should see Sam McTester here. It should be the whole housing portal. Sweet. Thanks, Jaden. Okay, so let's just look at this real quick. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a few important pieces of this, right? So you all should be fairly familiar with this. This stays on and active for you the whole time. You could always go to the housing portal and see stuff. Opposed to what you see at RoomPact, you only have access to RoomPact when have an active assignment. So a lot of times we'll get like phone calls and emails during the summer months, and they're like, "Hey, I can't see anything in RoomPact." Well, that's because you don't have an active assignment during the summer if you're not living on campus. So the portal will always be open to you. You can go in here and take a look at stuff. So the big piece here is when you log into the portal, you're going to have your picture up here. Of course, Sam is not a real person, so we don't have a picture, but you're going to have your picture, you're going to have your name, you're going to have your W number. Any messages from our office, we can put up here. Sam doesn't have any messages right now, but some of you might, so you can go take a look. Here is your room selection. Because Sam is my test, I already have him set up for room selection. So when you get your time slot email, and we'll go over that here in a little bit, your time slot email pulls from this information right here. So this is exactly when you'll know when to get on, and you can actually even go to select a room and suite from this location. But this will not let you do anything until your actual start time. So make sure that you're very aware what your start time is. Once you get an assignment, like I said, if you log into your My Housing portal right now, you'll be able to see your assignments here. I think you'll still see the fall and the spring if you're here for the fall, but you'll see your assignments and you'll even see the list of your suite mates and roommates. So once you actually go through room selection and like maybe throughout the summer, you can't remember who you're living with, things like that, or if it changes, you'll be able to look right here in this section. And then meal plan. So your meal plan will be listed here. I went through and played around with Sam's account earlier. I went ahead and selected him a meal plan. But once you select a meal plan, you'll be able to see it right here. And then on the right, we have a bunch of help text, a bunch of helpful links for you throughout. So you can click on that if you want. You can even change the light to dark, ooh, fun, very exciting. All right, so when you log into your My Housing portal, you're going to see your navigation bar over here on the left. You have your home, which is this, your housing agreements, and your forms, which we're trying to use the My Housing portal more. So you're going to start seeing more items here for you. That's where you're going to find your agreement. Your information, we'll go over that in a little bit, and then we'll go over these as well. So to start your agreement, it's very simple. You just log into your My Housing portal, and you click on that. What you're going to want to do to review your agreement is you're going to want to click on this right here. And we're still finalizing the agreement. So for today's example, I just have the fall 24 and spring 25. So your active agreement right now up. So you're going to want to read through this. Like I said, there's some very important sections in here, and definitely want you to be aware of your move in and move out dates. That's really important for co-op students. So you need to make sure that your co-op date, if you are a co-op student, your co-op start and end date matches with the move in, move out time. The other thing that's really important that gets individuals and like gets upset is if you do need to cancel, be mindful of the cancellation um, proration table that we have. This is set by student account, so this is what we follow. Like I said, this is the current year that I'm showing you right now because we're still finalizing, so everything will be set and ready to go for next week. But I just wanted to point that out to you that that's very important areas. Sorry, right by the fire station. Yeah, and then there's meal plan information. There's really good information on this for you to review. It's not exciting reading. I'm not going to pretend that it is, but please read it. So I'm gonna go back here. Well, after you read through it, you can either type in your name or you can sign your name. So we're just gonna sign it. That's Sam's signature there. The next thing it's going to do, it's going to have you answer questions. Like I said, I played around with this earlier, so to speed it up a little bit, I went ahead and submitted all this stuff so that way we didn't have to retype it in and everything. But everything that has an asterisk is required. I believe all of these are required for us. So what we do is this is all your profile for your roommates, right? So your roommate selection. So when you go to search later on for roommates, say you don't know anybody you want to live with, you can actually view what these questions and answers that they have on their account. So you can try to pair up with somebody that might have similar likes as you. So you'll go through and you'll answer all these questions. You'll hit continue. And then this is another piece that's really important for us. This is really a safety thing for us. So we like to, and we require this, we require that you provide us with your most up-to-date address and your emergency contacts. A lot of times students will say, why do you need this? You can pull this data from admissions and things like that. Well, we find that students sometimes will not update their accounts. And so this is the best way that we can capture the most accurate up-to-date information. So you'll want to go through here. It is required. You just fill out the required pieces whenever you go through. Like I said, I've already completed all this. But you'll put the address, the city, the state, zip, the country, and then save. And then down here in your contacts, you have to do an emergency contact, a missing person, and a parent/guardian. These are just made up people, but you just go in and fill out the necessary and required pieces there. The next step, which is not going to show you because I already selected a meal plan, but the next step that you're going to see there is it's going to ask you to select a meal plan. And you'll be able to select from the meal plans that are available to you. So anyone living on campus, especially second years on up, they have the option of the full meal plans and the residential full plans or the partial plans. I will say the majority of our second years on up, the most popular meal plan is I think it's called Emerald. It's like $555 meal plan. It's what it is right now. It'll go up a little bit for next year. Students tend to like that because you are going to have access. You have access to a full kitchen, and so a lot of students will cook the majority of the time in their suite, and then use your meal plan when needed. So yeah, so that's how easy the agreement is. The one piece that you're not going to see on this example is I gave myself the waived down payment because I didn't want to put in a payment because I'm not going to pay the $500. Sorry, everyone. But before you get to this final piece here, right after you select your meal plan, it'll take you to the payment portal, and that's where you'll pay your $500. And that is done through, I think it's NailNet or TouchNet, something like that. And then it'll process, and then it'll direct you to come back to the housing portal, and then it'll finish up everything for you. We do have some students that will qualify for a fee waived, which is what this is. And that is, we get a list of students from like financial aid and other offices that might need that, just based on like their financial aid need. However, if you feel like you qualify and you want to submit a request for that, we'll show you where that's located and you'll be able to take a look at that. So, but that's how easy it is to submit the agreement. You have to have this on file before you can even do anything else. So This goes live on Wednesday, January 22nd. So it's really important that if you want to live on campus and if you need to live on campus, that you get this in as soon as possible. Um, yeah. So it'll go live on the 22nd. I believe I have it set for 9 a.m. that morning, and it's due February 7th, which is a Friday at 4:30 p.m. Any agreements that are submitted after that deadline, pardon me, those are considered late. So make sure you put your stuff in during that time frame. The earlier you put it in, the better time slot you're going to have. And let me go back. Your time slot's going to be based on agreement submission date, and it also the year that you were admitted to Wentworth. It's not based on credit hours, so it's the academic year. So it's those two things that determine your time slot. So that is how you complete your agreement, start to finish. Now, everyone that submits their housing agreement, they're thrown into a pool where you can go in and search for other people. So before we get to that section, does anyone have any questions? No, no. Okay, cool. Love it. All right. So again, very simple. Now, if you click home, it'll take you back to your home page. And that's where you for your next step. So your next step after you submit your housing agreement, you can go in and you can start searching for roommates. So some of you might not know anybody, and that's completely fine. You can go in as solo, but we highly, highly, highly recommend that you go in with a roommate pairing or a suite mate group. I'm going to show you where to go to look for our room selection guide that's on our website. It literally has everything that I'm going over today and even more detail, and even talks about the residence halls and like how many people per suite and things like that. So I'll show you where that's at on our page. So that way you have a leg up. And then I'm also going to be sending that out to, going to be sending that out via email as well. Did have a question. Is there a deadline for the fall 2025? The deadline to submit to be considered on time is February 7th at 4:30 p.m. We will accept agreements after that date. It's just one, we can't necessarily guarantee assignment and where that assignment's going to be, what it's going to look like, singles, suites, all that. Um, so it'll be considered, and you'll be manually assigned at that point. So if you want to go through room selection, make sure you get your stuff in before February 7th at 4:30 p.m. A lot of times, what the other question that we'll get is like, I'm going to be in co-op for the fall, so I don't know what I need to do. Should I sign up? Should I not? I always tell students sign up because I rather you be in the pool to go through room selection than you not do anything and then you might not get what you're wanting, right? You have a better shot. So, um, definitely, if you're still on the fence, you're not quite sure what to do, I say always err on the side of caution and go through and do the process and then visit with me after the fact and say, you know what, I got a co-op, what do I need to do? And I'll point you in the direction for the cancellation form. You send me your co-op information and your solids. But I always just err on the side of caution. So that's my advice. Especially now. So I don't know if some of you have heard or like witnessed it, but our housing is so tight. Like we had to use Edwards and Rogers for the fall and then move students over to vacancies. So we're going to see still an increase in numbers for the fall. So definitely get your stuff in on time because it's going to be tight. And other question is, can international students apply for the waiver? Yeah, you sure can. Yeah, you sure can. I'll show you. Good question. What I'll do, Nancy, is here in a little bit, I'll show you where to go on our website to take a look at our room selection guide, and I have a bunch of links in there for you to look through. And one of them is to where to go for the waiver. So, good question. All right, so let's go ahead and let's look for a roommate. So I have Sam McTester here. He has a friend whose name is Preferred Registrar 3, which is a very unique name. But he's not sure, if Preferred has created his agreement yet or not, but we can go and take a look. So Sam here is here on the housing portal, here at your home page, and on your navigation here on the left-hand side, you just click on roommate and room selection. Click on that, and then select roommates. Make sure you're in the correct term, so fall 2025. You click on search for roommate. You can search by all of these criteria. So say you don't know anybody, but you want to search based on like the questions and the answers, you can do that. And it'll populate the best matches. So, but you know what? I'm just gonna hit begin search because I know I don't have that many people in here. Now, when we start getting a couple of thousand students that are, about well over 1,000 that are going to do the agreements. If you click search, sometimes it won't populate other people because it's so many people at once. So try to narrow it down a little bit, especially if you know like their first and last name. Especially if you know somebody specifically you want to live with. But so I have a couple of people here. It's going to show you all genders. It's going to show you, whatever. So we're going to be friends and live with Preferred 3. So here he is. So all you do is you find the person you want to live with. And again, it's going to show you the questions and answers as well on here, but you request the roommate. So now that has been sent over to Preferred Registrar. So if you know Preferred, you need to reach out to Preferred and say, hey, I just sent you a request on the portal. Can you go in and approve it? And where Preferred is going to go is right here under pending roommate request, which is under the same area. And his name is going to be listed there. Now, I've already paired them up in the system because I was preparing for this. But what he'll do is he'll go in and it'll show Sam's name here, Sam McTester. And then on the right-hand side here, it'll have some options. It can be like delete, it can view, and then one of them is accept. So if you want to live with Sam, if you want to live with whoever that person is that's sending it to you, make sure you match up in the system. And when you do that, this right here will show up. Now you can add up to, I think it's 8 people for your roommate group. Because we have suites that fit up to 6 to 8 people. So in that, like I mentioned in that room selection guide, it's going to tell you all about like the different size suites that we have, especially in the buildings like 555 and 525, like how many people per suite and things like that. So be very mindful of that. But we do like it when groups go in fully matched up to capacity. That way everyone's already together and we try to fill up these suites with people that know each other. It makes it go a little bit easier. Now, keep in mind, the longer that you go through room selection, the further down you are with your time slot and the larger your group. Sometimes there's not going to be suites that's going to fit everybody because maybe there's a group that goes in with 5 and it's an 8-person suite. Those leftover rooms are going to be available. And eventually we're going to get to that point where some groups are going to have to split up, and you can do that in the system. You'll be able to, whoever is the leader of the group will actually be able to go in and split up the group and put them in the different suites. So keep that in mind. Again, I know I keep harping on this, but I'm going to share with you where to go to view that room selection guide, because it really does have a lot of good information in different scenarios on what you need to do if you need to split up and things like that. So, all right, so that's literally how you select your roommates. You go through, like I said, you can do, I think it's up to 8. So if I wanted to select more people, I can. But for this demonstration, Bart and I think Lisa or maybe Maggie are going to live together in a different scenario. So, that's it. That's how you select your roommate. All this needs to be completed. So your agreement and your roommate matching and your suite mate matching, all that needs to be fully matched by 4:30 p.m. on February 7th. Because what's going to happen is right after 4:30, I'm going to start pulling reports and I'm going to start doing those time slots. So you need to make sure that whoever you want to live with has everything squared away and is matched up in the system. So that way you're set. And so when I go to pull those reports, everyone gets their time slot like they should. And no one's left out of your group. So go ahead and start having those conversations with your friends now. You'll also want to have the conversation with your friends on who's going to be the leader of the group. The system will not designate a leader, right? So you all determine in your group. So find the most responsible individual to be the leader for your group, and they'll be the ones that'll actually go in and I would say it should be the person who has the earlier time slot, but can go in and select for everybody, and then also have those conversations of, okay, guys, like if if we can't find a suite that fits all of us, how are we going to split this up? So make sure you've already talked through that. Also come up with like options, right? If we can get into 525, great. If we can't, okay, what's our number two building? Like, so rank it out. So have a conversation as a group. That way, when the person who's going in to do all this for you, that they have all the information that they need and they're making the most informed decision for your group. So let's see. All right. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you um, two room selection scenarios. So the first one is I'm just going to do Sam and preferred here and get them squared away. They're just going to be pretty solid. It's just two people going in together. That's fine. We'll get them selected and I'll show you what that looks like. The other scenario that I'm going to go through is a gender inclusive because we get this a lot. So I want to make sure that I'm showing everyone how to do that because I don't want you to get all messed up. And I'll also talk a little bit about what gender inclusive housing is because I think there's some confusion with that as well. So we're going to say, yay, I got my time slot, whatever it is. Okay. So I'm Sam here, and my time slot was at 9:03 a.m. So we're going to pretend that's what time it is because he's right on the dot. So you're just going to log into your My Housing portal. I would get in there a few minutes before. Just make sure you're refreshing and make sure you've refreshed and that you're ready to go by the time your time slot hits. That way you're squared away. So all you do, you can get there two ways. The easiest way, obviously, is on your main page here, or you can do roommate and room selection. So you can get there both ways. But I personally like it on my home page just because it's right here. So you click on select a room and suite. It's going to tell you here you are now eligible to select a room. It's going to show you your roommate group. Um, like I said, I think it's up to 8 people that you can have in a group, and that includes you. So if I had way more than that, they'd be all listed here with their student numbers. So you click select from list. This is how you can filter what you need. So say you only want to take a look at whichever hall, right? 525. It'll show you everything available. Say you even want to narrow it down, like you can even do by floor. You can do by room type. I think it's important for you to mention probably 99.9% of you that's on this call will want a single. Great. Love it. I'm happy. But unfortunately, we don't have enough singles for everybody that wants one. So just keep that in mind. It's inevitable that every year I have a single room standby list, which I'm very happy to coordinate and to help out where I can. But just know that not everyone will get a single. We also do hold off some spaces for like medical accommodations or required accommodations for different groups and or for students that might need that. So we do get them assigned first because legally we need to get them housed. So if you do need an accommodation or if you have a current accommodation on file and you need to get that renewed, which you should every year, make sure you're working with Student Accessibility Services, and make sure you do that by February 4th. So we like to have all that stuff squared away before February 7th. So make sure you're working with that office right now. But just know that as much as I would want to give everyone a single that wants one, I can't. So that's just inevitable. So keep that in your mind as you're going through this process. All right. So the big piece here is the gender inclusive. So we do provide gender inclusive housing. Students oftentimes will ask us what that means. That means that any gender identity can live within the suite and within the bedroom. So if it's a gender inclusive suite, any gender configuration can get added to that suite. So male and female in a double room, triple room, in single rooms, it could be any combination. So if that suite is indicated as gender inclusive, any gender can get in there. It does not matter what you indicated on your application. If you said, no, I don't want gender inclusive, but you didn't filter that out and you selected a gender inclusive suite, you got gender inclusive suite, right? So make sure you pay attention to that. So these two, Sam and his buddy Preferred, they don't want to live in gender inclusive. So they're going to filter that out as no. And so now it's going to show all of the spaces right now with this filter, 525 and any non-gender inclusive suites. He doesn't want to do the hall and he just wants straight non-gender inclusive suites. You can do that as well. And it's going to show you everything that's available to you. So let's just put, so let's take a look at 525 Huntington Avenue 204. Something important to note here that once you submit and once you put someone in a bed and you put yourself in a bed, it's done. You were in there. Please, please, please make sure that you are putting yourself in the space that you want. Because if you don't and you call us and you're like, oh, I need to cancel that and I need to switch out of it, you're taking up precious time and we can cancel it, but I cannot guarantee what you'll get into. So just make sure you're like, this is what we want, like this is what we got. Someone asked, are rooms pre-assigned as gender inclusive before selection? Very good question. Yes, we do. So we go in and I take a look at I start looking at the agreements and I get a feel for how many students are wanting gender inclusive housing. And I try to make as many suites as I can, have enough so that we can accommodate those that want gender inclusive housing. Now, sometimes they get filled up and then I can't provide that for students. So I ask that everyone be very diligent when they're going through and making sure they're looking at that filter because that's very important. But rather, it's a very good question. Yes, we go through, we pull that data first, and then I'll go in and I'll start on my end. I'll go in and indicate which suites are gender inclusive. Very good question. So we also go in, you might not like, you're like, oh, I really want to be, because some students like know exactly where they want to be. So say 525, 310A, you're like, that's the room I want to be in. That's the suite. We do also assign student staff members, so our CAs. So those spaces might not necessarily be available for you during room selection because they've already been assigned to student staff, or maybe students with a medical need or accommodation on file where I have to go ahead and pre-assign them. So just keep that in mind. So that's why I said earlier, make sure you have basically like your want list, or like your, okay, if we can't get this, we're going to try this, so just make sure you're chatting with your group about that. So Sam here and Preferred registrar number 3, what we're going to do is we're going to put them in. They're like, yeah, we really want to be in 525. We want singles. So yeah, let's throw ourselves in there. So a few things to look at here. It's going to show you the room type. So single 525HA, all that is a single room 525 Huntington Ave. Spots, there's one spot in there because it's a single. Spots in the suite, there's 4. So that means that it's a 4-person suite, which it is, and there's 4 beds available. So say someone has already selected D, then this would go down to spots available. It'll say 3. So it'll like count it down for you. I haven't updated the rates. I think the rates are going to be staying the same, but don't quote me on that. We're still waiting to get all that stuff finalized. But you'll also see the rates here listed for you just so that you know what to expect. So let's click on that. you're going to see your roommate matching here, right? So this is a 4-person suite, so you can only put 4 people here. So say you had 6 people in your roommate group, you'd only be able to put 4. So that's where those previous conversations would come into play, like, okay, the other 2 people are going to go in this suite. So um, it really doesn't matter who you put where, right? So um, you know, I mean, I guess it matters to you all. I don't know. Some of you know exactly what room you want, but so like right here, we can say preferred 3 wants 204A. Then you can select preferred 3, and then say you don't want to put Sam in that one. Sam wants to be in room D. You throw Sam in room D, and then now again, make sure this is correct. You'll not be able to change this yourself. So once this submits, the system has locked you in, and when you call our office in a panic, um, we want to help you, but also just know that you are also competing with 1,000 other students. So it gets highly, highly competitive. So just make sure you're for sure. So you just submit it. Do 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 do. That's it. Congratulations, you've done it. You'll also get a confirmation email in your inbox to your WIT account that'll tell you that you've selected a space, and I think it even tells you what space you selected and all that. Um, that is it. The other question I'll get a lot of times is, so Sam picked for him and his friend. Does the other friend need to go in? Nope. The other friend doesn't need to do anything. At that point, the other friend is assigned to that space. So now if I go back to my home, it'll show you here, fall assignment. It'll show you the hall room, the room type, and the person and the people. When you start seeing the fill, it'll start filling up, right? And you'll start seeing everyone here. Now, you're only going to see fall 2025 because if I create a spring 2026 term, spring billing will go on with the fall. And we don't do that because some of you will go on co-op, will not return, things like that. So we only show semester by semester. The agreement is for the full academic year. It's for fall and for spring, but just know you'll only see the fall 2025. And this assignment is your assignment all the way through the end of the academic year, so spring 2026. The only time this will change is if you do a room change or if we have to consolidate and move people around, which does happen occasionally due to cancellations and things like that. So make sure you're checking this, throughout the summer and things like that. But your assignment that you select for the fall, 90% of the time, that's the same room that you're going to be in for the spring unless you do a room change. So you'll have all the information you need here, your assignment and your dining. And at that point, you're done. There's nothing else that you need to do. And then what we'll do is charges will go on in June, um, mid-June, I believe. And then I think you'll have to look at the student accounts website, but I think their stuff is due July or August. I can't quite remember, but everything will get added to your student account in June. And that's when you'll go in and you'll do all your your FAFSA will hit and all that fun stuff. So that is just a regular room selection. The other one I want to show you is disregard this screen because this is mine. Don't want to confuse you there. Oh, registrar. Might help if I spell that. Okay, we'll pretend that we're Bart here. So Bart has a room sign up time. Let's see if Bart is signed up with anybody. Ball. Okay, yep, he's paired up right here with Maggie. So I'm making the assumption that identifies as male and Maggie here identifies as female, and we'll say they're brother and sister, and for some reason they want to live together because they're very close. Great, love it. So what they'll do is because they identify as male and female, they're going to be in gender inclusive housing. Now, the system will not allow if the space is not marked as gender inclusive, they will not be able to select a non-gender inclusive space because the system is like, oh, this suite is designated as a male, as a female, or as either. And what the either is who, whatever the gender is that first selects that bed space in that suite will dictate the remainder of the suite if it's not marked as gender inclusive. So hopefully I didn't confuse you with that. So the system will not allow Maggie and Bart to get together in a non-gender inclusive suite. So, yeah, so let's go from this side right here and select a room slash or room suite. So again, you can see how these two were paired up. We're ready to go. Because we're gender inclusive, we want to make sure that we select yes. And you hit search available. You do the exact same thing that we did for the other. You go in, you select who wants to go where, make sure that's where you want to be, submit, boom, done. That's it. So make sure if you want gender inclusive, you use that filter. Even if you don't want gender inclusive, that is very important. We saw a lot of that with our first year groups. They just wanted space together and they were like, and they didn't do that filter and they ended up in suites with males and females and they were like, what is happening? That's why. So it's very important that you definitely take a look at that. Does this mean change a room change request for the current semester? No, it does not. But I can tell. So the question is, does this meeting pertain to room change request for the current semester? So no, this is just for room selection for the summer and for the fall. But I can tell you the best way to get a room change request is to submit the form through RoomPact. Once you submit that RoomPact form, the room change request form through RoomPact, then it gets sent to your community director, and your community director will email you to reach out and like do a meeting and see what's going on and what you need. If you're requesting a single room, just know that we do have a single room standby list, and so it's pretty lengthy. It's like 35 people right now, so pretty tight on the singles. So, but that is how you do a current room change. You're welcome. We will get questions in the summer like, okay, my friends and I, we selected 555, or that's what we could only get into. Can I do a room change into 525 or whatever? It's very hard for us to make changes throughout the summer because there's so many moving pieces, right? We'll have students that'll sign up for housing and then they decide that they don't want it. So then there's cancellations, but then at the same time, we also will still have incoming transfer students that will need upper class housing. We'll also have students that are just late, right? That submit their agreement because we'll have students that think they're transferring but then decide to stay or they didn't get a co-op, all kinds of scenarios. So what we tell students is if you want to do a room change, the best thing is we do ask that you wait after the second week of classes for each semester. And we do that because the second week, we give students about 2 weeks to get here and to register for classes. Anyone that does not register for classes, they're dropped from housing, and those spaces open up as a pool for you to select from or for us to help you with a room change. So just a little side note on room changes, something that we get quite often. Other questions that we'll get about meal plans. So like I said earlier, if you're in an upper class hall, and you're an upper class student that has a kitchen, you can get any of the partial or the residential plans. If you select a meal plan in your housing portal and then you decide over the summer, you're like, I don't want that one. Like for some reason I selected the platinum, which is great if you do, cool. But you're like, oh man, I have a kitchen. Why do I need that? I'm going to drop down to Emerald. There is a meal plan change form that'll go live on our website. So, and I can actually show you all that stuff right now too. So let's do that. Okay. So this is the web page that you know. Housing. I use this quite frequently. All right. So, like I said, during the summer, if you want to do a meal plan change, it's going to be under here, under the housing forms. If say you sign up for housing and you're like, I don't know if I'm gonna do co-op, I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I'm gonna go ahead and sign up just because I don't know. Better safe than sorry. If you end up getting a co-op later or you're doing study abroad or whatever, you can also find the housing cancellation form on here. Okay. So you have access to this throughout the summer, throughout like right now. Like I said earlier, if you need access to RoomPack, that's only during the terms that you have an active assignment. So if you're not living with us during the summer, you won't have access to RoomPack. So any of those forms we have on RoomPack, we move over to this so you have access to it. To get the information for room selection, that room selection guide I was talking about, I'll show you where to go. Again, another page I look at quite often. So I went and updated this for everybody. So this is for returning students. And let me do this. Let me throw that in the boom. There you go. Now you have it. So I went in and updated this for everybody. Same information we went over with some deadlines, how to access your My Housing portal. If you ever need to know how to get, I use this link all the time, I'm not kidding you. But you can click on the My Housing link right here. And if you scroll down, this right here is that housing guide. Very, very, very important. It step by step will tell you. It'll tell you who's eligible, what we're going to have available, all kinds of things. So definitely read through this. If you have questions, feel free to reach out to our office. We do get really busy with our inbox, but please be patient with us, but send us an email. Happy to go, answer any questions that you have. Like earlier I talked about how many people can fit in the suites. For the majority, you can look at this. Like it really does have a lot of good information in here for you. So please read through that. There's some screenshots. Hopefully I'm not making you sick right now. Going through that really quickly. We have our contact information down here. And then I'm going to share with you my email address just in case you need it again. Let's see. I think that's everything. So that's a lot. But any questions? We have a few minutes, so about 9 minutes. So happy to answer any questions. Yeah. What you need? What you got? I am going to post this on that page that I just shared, that I just showed you. So I am going to put that up on our website so others can listen to me talk and talk about it. Like I said earlier, we'll do the same process for the summer. We like to get fall taken care of first. Thank you for reminding me, Nancy. We like to take care of fall first because it is a larger process, and so we like to get all that squared away, and then we'll really in February start with the marketing for the summer term. So, okay, Nancy asked how to request housing waiver. Yes. All right, Nancy. So what you'll do is you'll go to your My Housing portal, and on the left-hand side under forms, I don't have it in the tester environment, but where your housing agreement is, where I showed you, right under that, you should see your waiver request form, and you just submit that, and it goes to a committee, and we review it. So not everyone that requests a waiver will be granted one. So what we do is we go in, and it's a committee of financial aid, student accounts, our office. We also talk to the dean of students office, and we definitely review your request, and then we'll get you an answer. I say if you're going to request a waiver, we ask that you submit that no later than February 6th because we need to have enough time to review it. And so if everything is due February 7th, that's just pushing it too far, right? So I say if you need a waiver, you start that process, and that'll open up the same day that the agreements go live. So next Wednesday on the 22nd. Yes. Oh, thank you, Riley. So Riley's question is, can you further explain this important date? February 11th, time slots would be emailed. Yes. So every student will get a time slot to go into the housing portal. It'll get emailed to you. And that time slot is going to be based on when you submit your housing agreement and the year that you or the term that you were admitted, not by credit hours. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll start pulling my report after February 7th at 4:30. I'll go in and pull a report and see everyone that submitted their agreement. I'll go in and look at their admitted term, and then I'll organize that list based on that criteria. And then I'll start assigning, well, the system will assign time slots, and that'll get emailed to you. So that's how you know when you go in to select your room. So if you're going to be part of a suite mate group, you want to compare and say, okay, I have the earliest time. I'm going to be the one to go in and do it. Say that person has a class during that time. Work it out amongst yourselves how you want to take care of that. But just make sure you talk with your group and see who has the earliest time, and then make sure you have that based on grade level of freshman, sophomore. Yes, but not by credit hours. So the question or the addition to that was, does that mean it's essentially based on grade level, freshman, sophomore, et cetera? Yes, but your credit hours do not take into account because some people, depending on their studies, depends on how many classes they take each semester. So we find that that's not quite equitable. So what we do is we take your admitted term. So if you were, admitted in this fall, then you're going to be a rising sophomore, so you'll be in with the sophomores. Yes. Real quickly, let's see. We typically have for upper class students, so we have 610, we have 555, we have 525, and we have Louis Prang Vancouver. So in 555, well, in 610, a lot of times it's a lot of our sophomores and some juniors, but mostly sophomores. In 555, it's sophomores, some sophomores and more juniors. And then 525 tends to be senior heavy. Over at Louis Prang Vancouver, it tends to be juniors and seniors. And then we do hold off a building for graduate students. 68 Louis Prang is typically where our grad students will reside. So yeah, so that's the breakdown of that. Good questions. Any other questions for me? Trying to think if there's anything else. Let's see. Summer, a lot of times people will ask me about summer. What buildings are we going to use? We don't quite know. We work with facilities during the summer to do projects because our buildings they take a lot of beating throughout the year. So when they're continuously occupied, we try to find time when we can to get in there and do some maintenance and some repairs. So we're still trying to finalize the projects for the summer. Um, so what we'll do is right before the summer agreement goes live, we'll be able to tell everyone which buildings we're going to be using. Yeah. Some. Okay, so one of the questions I had, where do freshmen typically get placed, which building? So first year students, freshmen, they have a completely separate process. So their stuff will happen in the summer, and they're in first year buildings. They're in Evansway, Tudbury, and Baker. Their process completely separate. And we will have sessions throughout the summer for those students. So they get placed and they'll get to select a roommate, but the system will automatically place them. So we'll go through that during the summer. But yes, they go into Evansway, Tudbury, which are two buildings, but they're actually connected, and then Baker. Another good question here. Some suites in 610 are considered to be three-person suites. Yep. So we do have some that are three-person. We have in 610, we have a few singles, like very few. They're predominantly double rooms and triples. 555, same thing. We have some triples, we have some doubles and a few singles, and the majority of our singles are in 525 and LPV. But the question here is, some suites in 610 are considered to be three-person suites. If we were to be a group of three, would we have priority for those suites? No, your only priority is your time slot, what your time slot is. So there's really no way, like we won't go in and say, okay, everyone that has three people are going to go during this time frame, this, right? So anyone that's in a fully or in a roommate matching group, we'll get all those squared away first. And then any people that do not select, or if they're in solo, they just haven't paired up with anybody, we'll run a separate process for them and they'll go in and select their spaces and they'll fill those spaces that those suites that didn't get filled up by the larger groups. But no, you wouldn't have a priority because you only have three people in your group. You would your only priority is based on that time slot. So good question. Let's see. Any other questions? exemptions, another thing that people ask about, say you're a rising sophomore. So right now you're a first year and you're living like EWT or Evans Bay Tedbury, or you're at Baker, whatever. You're a first year student right now. And you're like, um, you know, I want to live at home. My home is near here. You'll go to our website under the housing forms that I showed you, and there's an exemption form, and you'll submit that form, and it'll go to a committee, and that committee will review it, and they'll let you know what their decision is. Let's see. Another good question is, how are time slots assigned if they aren't by credit wise and our group were to be all the same grade level? Would it just be randomized? So your time slots are going to be based on the day and time that you select um or submit your agreement, and your admitted term. So it's two pieces to that. So in your group, if you all have the same admitted term, so say it's 2025-10, sorry, so fall 2024, I know it's confusing, but fall 2024, but like one person submitted, they were the first person to submit in the whole system. They're the first ones. They're gonna have a higher their time slot's going to be a little bit higher up. It's not going to be the first, right? Because it's going to be based on your admitted term, but it's going to be pretty high up. So whoever out of your group has that earliest time slot will need to be the one in your group to go in and select for your group. So as soon as those emails go out, just start chatting with your group and say, hey, who has the earliest time? And then that's how you'll determine who gets to go in there and select. It can be anyone in your group. It doesn't have to be the earliest person. That's just what I advise, because to me that makes the most sense, but it can be however you all want to do it in your group. But to me, it makes the most sense. But just know that everyone in the group needs to be fully aware that whoever goes in and adds people to the spaces, it's that person that did it, not our office. A lot of times we'll get like, I got placed in this spot. You all placed me in this room. And I go back and look, I'm like, no, actually your friend put you in this room, right? So like you need to talk with them. So make sure everyone's fully aware of that. So we try not to assign people when we don't have to, because you all know what you want more than what we do, but there are times we need to. So any other questions? Again, you can email me, email our office, call our office. If you think of more questions, I'm going to post this that you can review back on. Definitely take a look at that room selection guide, read through it, make sure you're reading your agreement thoroughly. Yeah, I think those are my big tips. Make sure you're communicating with your suite mate friends and your friends and who all wants to live together. Come up with a really good plan. Be very methodical about it, because it is going to be competitive. It's going to be tight this year again, and space it gets really competitive during this time. So there's not a whole lot once the ball starts rolling with room selection. There's not much that we can do to stop it. So like make sure that whatever room you select is actually where you want to be, things like that. Okay. I've gone over, of course, long-winded. Again, if you have questions, email us, reach out. Again, email me. It's the quickest way to get a hold of me. Um, thank you all for joining, and good luck with room selection. It opens up next Wednesday. So we'll be ready to go. All right. You all have a wonderful night. I'm going to go catch the train. Bye.